The crowd, or the mob, was to be one of Hogarth's greatest subjects. Now, Hogarth was brought up in the densely packed streets of Smithfield and he became fascinated by the crowd. Smithfield was not only a really busy part of London, but it also hosted the Great Summer Fair, the Cloth Fair, which was founded in 1133, and it was there specifically to support the church of St Bartholomew's the Great. And merchants would travel from all over Europe to Smithfields, and Hogarth could find right on his doorstep a kaleidoscopic array of puppet shows and street performers and magicians and posture artists and musicians, and so we're told also giants and fairies and you name it, they could be found at Smithfield Cloth Fair. These people all fascinated him, but it wasn't just the people performing, it was the people watching that Hogarth was just as interested in. And just as Shakespeare said, for Hogarth, the world was a stage, and the crowd was a key part of the drama. And this hilarious print is one of the great examples of Hogarth's fascination with the crowd. So it was made in 1733 and it is known as the Laughing Audience. So let's start at the top and see what is going on. We are set within a theatre. And at the top you will have the boxes for the aristocrats. Now, as you can see, these guys don't really give a stuff about what is going on the stage. They are considerably more interested in flirting with these two lovely ladies who are selling them oranges, and I suspect they're selling them a little bit more than just oranges. And look at those kind of hideously sleazy, bewigged men who are leering over their prey. It's the most sort of amazing depiction of sleaziness at the top of the theatre here. Then we move down into the audience and we have one of the world's best descriptions of laughter. You just cannot help but smile with these guys. Look at these faces. I mean, they're just absolutely priceless. They can barely contain themselves. They are laughing so hard, and we see jowly cheeks and pudgy noses and missing teeth and receding hairlines. This is a really true Hogarthian crowd. And then we move down into the third tier where we find the orchestra. And the best bit about this section is the spikes. Can you see in between the crowd and the orchestra that the audience in theatres were just so raucous that spikes were actually needed to protect the musicians in the pit. And you can see these three guys are desperately trying to play their wind instruments amidst the hubbub, but how they can concentrate, I have no idea. Now, what is it that they're laughing so hard about? Could they be, I wonder, laughing about John Gay's Beggar's Opera, which was a ballad opera written 5 years earlier? It was so popular, so much so that in fact 62 consecutive performances were run, and this was the longest run of any British theatre to that date. Now, there's quite an interesting synergy between the Beggar's Opera and prints like this, because both of them really were completely new types of art. They were pieces of art for the normal people. Now, the critical thing about the Beggar's Opera was that it was in English, and it was about normal people. It was about Macheath the highwayman and his passion for Polly Peachum. The opera was sung to jaunty, recognisable tunes, and anyone with a few coins could go and listen. It's such a revolutionary moment in the history of music. It was an art for everyone, and it was not just about the posh Italian operas anymore, sung in a language that no one could understand, with hugely expensive stage settings and singers who are drafted in from the continent. And who could afford this kind of performance? Well, it was only the rich, certainly not the normal people. And so just like what John Gay was doing with the Beggar's Opera, Hogarth created a new type of popular art. It was art for the people, for the very people, in fact, who are depicted in this print. Now, Theatre was most definitely not like the theatre of today. What you've got to imagine when looking at this print is an intense heat. Imagine the actors with makeup dripping down their faces. The audience are itching under their wigs, and there's an overwhelming stink of human sweat mixed with the smell of pies and beer, and maybe the sharp, refreshing smell of oranges. People could eat in theatres and drink in theatres. You need to imagine the noise, and actually, you can hear the noise when looking at this print. And it's not just that of the actors on the stage and the crowd laughing, but the crowd would also be booing, they would be shouting, they would be chattering away to each other. If they weren't impressed, they would jolly well say so, and they might well throw the odd pie at an actor or two on the stage. Frankly, theatre in the 18th century was a complete riot, and I suspect quite a lot of fun. So, as always, thank you, Hogarth, for providing us with this potent, in every sense of the word, insight into 18th century British society.